Being that it's 7 o'clock, we're going to call the meeting to order. Michelle, will you please read the sunshine law?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting, as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards, filed with the Borough Clerk, and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Thank you. Can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council President McNamara.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember Arania. Councilmember Pepperoni.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone could please join me in saluting the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's moment of silence is in honor, with family permission, of Ed Verlew, who we lost suddenly this weekend, and is a long-time family established business in this town and has done a lot to serve our community. And in his name, we have a moment of silence this evening, please. Thank you. Before we go on to the agenda, we have 2 exciting things to celebrate this evening. We have 2 swearing-in for officers that were promoted, one in May and one in June. But we wanted everyone to be able to be together and do them simultaneously. So I'm going to come down and have the officers take over. I, Gregory Jonathan,
I, Gregory Johnson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm that I will support the Constitution
or affirm that I support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties of
discharge the duties of
Keyport Borough Police Department Lieutenant
Keyport Borough Police Department Lieutenant
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations. Officer Haskell?
Hit you with it or hold it?
What is a Bible?
I, Robert Hassmiller,
I, Robert Hassmiller,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
Keyport Borough Police Department Sergeant
Keyport Borough Police Department Sergeant,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations. come over more.
No, I got it.
Okay. Congratulations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
In and out. Okay,
Before we open it up to the public, any members of the governing body have anything they need to review or pull from the agenda or table from the agenda? Right there. Councilmember Davidson?
Thank you. I have a quick question regarding payment of bills. I know we've been toggling back and forth with this conversation regarding the gas charges, and obviously we know it's really high, but on page 6 it says $12,000, $12,490 for the month of June. Is that strictly for police? Is that every borough vehicle? And is there a breakdown? We could have the chief's cars and
That is,
not police, but the
that
fire.
is all vehicles. There is a report that's available that breaks it down by department. If you'd like me to distribute that.
Please. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Barone?
For payment of bills also for, I see a troubleshooting emergency, 1040, 221040.
Is there a page number?
Page 1, it looks like, page 1, on the 7-5 payment of bills.
Yes.
Do we know what that's for?
It is. It's, you'll see that it's charged to the water sewer utility account. This was for a control, part of the control system required on-site review and I won't call it a repair, but reprogramming.
And then one more I have is for the suburban disposal. Is that for the town? What's for 33,000 on
That-
page 13?
Yes, that is for the landfill disposal costs for trash that's collected.
That's just trash? That's not like concrete from the roads or anything like that?
No, this is strictly disposal costs related to the contractual collection that is provided by Suburban.
Okay.
As well as there will occasionally be charges for, you'll see for instance the brush logs. That's brush that is collected by the borough but is transported for disposal or recycling by Suburban.
Okay.
So is that always known as the tipping fee?
That's primarily the tipping.
Council President McNamara?
I just have a couple of questions on the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, number 163 in the resolutions. And I think I answered a lot of my own questions, but I just want you to confirm them for me. So it is voluntary and there's no fee attached.
That's correct.
Okay. But this is not, it's not a commitment of any kind of exclusivity, right? If we don't have to go through that if we're doing something?
That's correct.
Okay.
There are a number of statewide or regional cooperative purchasing arrangements. There are actually a couple of federal or nationwide, and they are voluntary participation. None of them require us to purchase, but it is one of the available mechanisms to obtain quotes and prices. And more often than not, they would be a vendor if we can purchase under a state co-op plan. That's the way to go.
So this is similar to something that the county does. The county does stuff like this as well.
Yes, there's the most common is the state, the New Jersey Department of Treasury, Division of Property and something, Property and Purchasing actually. They go out to bid for state services and state goods, and they extend those state contracts to municipalities. This is similar. There are other groups that do the same thing. There are a couple of co-op groups that specialize in equipment that is more normally used in an education setting. There's also a co-op for recreation equipment and services.
Okay, so that's whatever the various services they can provide, that's why we went with Bergen, County of Bergen versus other places.
That's correct.
And then my last question is, a lot of times when we go out, we have to get at least 3 bids. So if we go through them and they're basically doing that, does that hit all of the things, or is that only one of the places and we still have to go to 2 others?
Using a co-op or purchasing arrangement allows us to eliminate the need to go out to quote for those that fall within the quote threshold. They also allow us to avoid having to go out for public bid for those purchases that exceed the bid threshold.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember McDermott?
Question about introduction of ordinance number 1. I guess my question is the business, I see some reasons why we're doing an extension for 7 years, and what's the differential between what was there before and why we're doing this ordinance?
Right. You may recall that last year we did a transfer of the tax exemption for this property. This is one of the senior high-rises, and as part of that transfer, that was a result of the property being sold. And this is sort of the next component of that is to extend the 30-year for the 7 years that have transpired since it was last renewed. This was reviewed by both the CFO as well as the tax assessor. I will say that the tax assessor's assessment was that although it's very difficult to project what the potential change would be 25 years out, or in this case 23 years out, extending to 30 years, based on the most recent 7 years, the advantage to the borough for this particular property was that we collected more tax revenue or more assessment fees under the pilot than we would have had there been no pilot arrangement.
Makes no sense.
All right, that was my question. So this is 7 plus, so it's 23 years.
Yeah, there's 23 years remaining on the existing 30 years. And the request, and I believe the information is in the packet, this request was initiated by the property owner as part of a refinancing of a 30-year loan commitment. So they wanted to, requesting to have the exemption tied into that financing instrument.
And the reason we have to do an ordinance is because of the way that it's a HUD, the way it's broken up, right? We're going to be pilot. It's a pilot, okay.
And also HUD required that the term be extended as part of refinance.
Okay, okay, so that was also HUD, okay.
Maybe it's retroactive. And if they had collected along the way.
Motion's open to the public.
Motion.
Second.
Any members of the public have anything regarding resolutions or communications? The ordinances will have separate hearings. Mr. Miller?
Couple questions. Resolution 2022-166. Could you please explain that hiring process? What's that exactly?
Sure, we had someone resign at our last, one of our recent agendas. There was a resignation of an employee, so this authorizes the governing body to give Jay the ability to do a search for a full-time replacement.
So, how's it been done in the past?
The same way.
Same way? Okay, and under communications, number 1, is the borough waiving the fee for the first aid?
I'll ask that when we get to that. I don't know. I haven't had that discussion yet.
Ordinance number 1, you said we're going to do ordinances separate.
They'll have their own hearing, yes.
Oh.
Well, except for the introduction, will not have its own hearing. That'll be another meeting, so.
Well, my question was to follow up on Councilwoman McDermott's question was why a ordinance versus a resolution? But I think the attorney explained that. But that's only for that 7-year period, because from what I'm understand, the new owners, they bought that. So they're not relying on HUD subsidization moving forward. So do we still,
That is not my understanding. I believe they're still operating as a HUD facility on one of the buildings, the annex.
okay, not the manor then?
The manor never was.
No. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else in the public? Mr. Lane?
Mike Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. Regarding resolution 2022-165, which is to release part of the repair money for the road work. When the borough staff was working on this, did anybody on the staff take note of the fact that this is a vacant lot while our Mod 2 data and our zoning data showed us that a 2-story single-family unit with a tax assessed value of 0? I mean, does anybody catch these things? And will they be fixed?
Yeah, I believe if this is the property that I'm thinking of, this was a rebuild, a tear down and a rebuild, so it may show a 0 value currently. There would typically be an added assessment for the period retroactive to whatever date the property was either a CO issued or was substantially completed.
When I ran a Zillow in Redfin, I couldn't find a new building, but I didn't drive on the site, so I can't answer that. But has the CO been issued?
That I don't know.
And so if the CO has been issued, it should be on the tax rolls.
Well, not necessarily. It depends on the timing, because the tax, in general, the tax assessment records are closed sometime in September. Sometime in December based on an October 1 cutoff date. And if something happens between the time of that October 1 cutoff date and today, whatever assessment should have been there is done through the mechanism of an added or omitted assessment. I know there's a technical difference between the two, although that difference escapes me currently, but I believe that it's an added assessment is when a renovation is done, and an omitted assessment is when a new structure is added. So in this case, if the property had not been substantially completed or a CO issued prior to, I believe, October 1 of last year, it does not show up on the current year assessment records. And that may be what you're referring to.
I don't understand. We have a tax assessor who sits here in the building, and when a CO is issued for a facility, why it doesn't go on the tax record right then? I mean, the bank put it on. So, Council, I asked you to look at that issue. That's all I had on resolutions. Are you taking comments on communications?
Yes.
Okay. On the communications, letter number 2 from Kathy Shaw. I found very interesting. And again, I would like to hear captured under future new business is how we're going to deal with the Division Street flooding. And the fact that we're going to need a pump station, and that pump station is going to have to be elevated so it doesn't flood, and we're going to have to push the water through the hundreds of thousands of dollars of 30-inch pipe that we put on the pier into the bay. And we spent all this money for a solution that's not working. And I keep waiting under old business or new business to hear when this is going to happen. And I think you need to respond to Kathy Shaw's letter, which addresses the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other further discussions regarding the resolution?
Regarding communication,
This is just resolution.
sorry.
And seeing there is none, is there a motion to approve R 2022-160 through R 2022-167?
Motion. Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have public hearing and adoption of ordinances. Number one tonight is ordinance number 2022-14, which is the financing of Beer Street water main repairs and improvement. Shall we please read the ordinance by title?
This is a bond ordinance number 2022-14, providing for the Beer Street water main repairs and improvements by the Borough of Keyport, appropriating $335,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $318,000 bonds or notes of the borough to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. Is there any comments before we open to the public? Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public have any comments on it? Mr. Lee?
Michael Lane, relative to this ordinance, it talks about a repair and facilities improvement. Do any of these facility improvements enhance the ease of connection for the water main extension from Beer Street to Mariners Village?
This project is not, correct, Jay?
That's correct.
Pardon?
This particular project is not.
So there's nothing that we're doing that's going to make it easier to do the connection to Mariner Village.
Not as part of this bond ordinance, no.
I'm talking about the improvements.
So the improvements that are falling under this bond ordinance, Mr. Lane, are due to the emergency water main break that was pretty extensive, that was on Beer Street. So in order for us to move forward to finish the paving on that, and before they closed off the road completely, they had engineering come out and do a study of the sewer line over there as well, which was compromised. So this is repairs to the sewer line in that general area, as well as the construction fees for the repair and everything else that went along with that, and the milling and paving of that section of the road and up into Gold Way. Is that correct, Jay?
That's correct.
The reason I bring it up is because if any of the work we're doing makes facilities the future connection, we should be charging Mariner Village. Thank you.
I see your point, but no, this is not going to be anywhere in regard to that. Any other members of the public? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions from the governing body? Seeing there is none, is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
Second.
And please have a roll call, Michelle?
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as adopted?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Second ordinance this evening is ordinance number 2022-15, purchase of equipment for fire department, including self-contained breathing apparatus units and the bottles of purchase equipment and a dump truck for the Department of Public Works. Michelle, can you please read it by title?
Bond ordinance 2022-15, providing for various capital improvements by the Borough of Keyport, appropriating the aggregate amount of $710,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $675,000 bonds or notes of the Borough to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. Any comments from the governing body? If not, can I have a motion open to the public?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the governing, any members of the public have any questions? Seeing that there's no hands, can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions from the governing body? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do a second?
Second.
Can I roll call, please?
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Is there a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as adopted?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Okay, next we have introduction of ordinances. Ordinance number 1 is amending Bethany Manor financial agreement. Is there a motion to introduce?
Motion.
I need to read it.
I lied.
Yeah.
First. Sorry, Michelle.
That's okay. This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, authorizing an amendment to the financial agreement by and between the Borough of Keyport and Bethany Manor Urban Renewal, LLC, to extend the financial agreement for an additional 7 years.
I have a motion to introduce.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for a public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Next, for introduction, we have ordinance permitting charitable organizations to solicit contributions in roadways.
Motion.
Michelle, just do that and
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, establishing Chapter 4, Section 30 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Keyport.
I have a motion to introduce.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in Asbury Park Press for a public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Next, we have ordinance amending the borough outdoor lighting regulations. Would you please read that by title?
An ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 25, Article 1 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Keyport entitled zoning.
A motion to introduce.
Motion.
A second.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for a public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Next, we have communications by consent. I just want to further off Mr. Miller's comments. I believe it's in the ordinance by the Borough of Keyport that emergency fire and first aid are eligible to have fees waived. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, just for way of background for anyone that's new on the governing body, emergency services are a nonprofit entity that are allowed to have fees waived. Councilwoman.
I just had a question. I know last year we went through this the last few years about having a grill there, grilling or with a gas or gas tank or no gas tank, charcoal. So has that been resolved or have you given me clear specifications? I think we allow gas and propane gas tank. But again, I just know this was a big discussion the last 2 or 3 years.
So my suggestion would be that if it was approved, to make a motion that includes that they must follow whatever borough codes for fire marshal regulations are present. And then as well as that they can't put any spikes in the ground because that whole park has an irrigation system now. But they have been told that, but I think it would behoove to be part of the motion of approval. I know we've talked in the past as well, there's not supposed to be alcohol in public parks either, so it's up to you guys. I guess if that was part of your motion or if you have further dialogue or not on that one.
I agree with all those points to be added onto the motion.
And then, as Mr. Lane pointed out, is there any dialogue on number 2, which is a letter received from Kathleen Shaw, resident in Keyport, that highlighted that she mentioned things at the planning board after a recent resubmission of an application of 25 East Front Street to members of the planning board, Councilmember Davidson and myself were not able to partake in that because we can't sit on that variance. So we were not there for that, but they were referred back to the governing body for commentary on proposed mitigation on that. Do you guys have any dialogue? What would you like responded back to Mrs. Shaw?
I guess the question for Leslie, or council, or even Jay, what is our allowance given that? So if we make a decision here, how far can we go? Because I know this is more stony array and kind of like, what can and can we not do?
This isn't about the application, this is about what the borough mitigation.
Correct.
Right, and I would suggest that if the council's pleasure, to direct that I can arrange a meeting with Ms. Shaw and the borough engineer to understand more fully the specifics of her request or suggestion, and we can bring that back.
So is that the guidance of the governing body, is to have Jay have a meeting with Ms. Shaw?
Yeah. I would recommend the liaison for one of them perspective.
I don't know, from planning board, I don't know if we can be there because we're not allowed to sit on it for planning board, so with the mayor, I'd be able to sit on there.
It would certainly be my opinion that because you're not participating in the planning board application process that you could, but I would defer a question of legality to the borough attorney.
It's probably best that you not, just to keep it cool.
We have a council president, maybe could sit on it.
That's my opinion. I think there needs to be some sort of respective liaison here. If not, this will be, I understand the.
I'm more than happy to. I think it's an important issue. I think it kind of gets lost in the sauce, it seems. So I encourage people exploration.
You can include Council President McNamara in that invitation to that meeting, Jay. Thank you. Okay, any other dialogue on items 1 through 4?
And again, they're just going back to the first aid and request for use of ventilation. There is a general prohibition of alcohol in public areas, including borough's parks. So although the request did not specifically include that, if it is the preference of the council to include that prohibition as part of that approval or to waive that prohibition for this event, just so that it's clear one way or the other.
Is that an ordinance, or do they have the ability to do that?
Yeah, the borough ordinance is what prohibits the consumption of alcohol in public areas, including specifically borough parks.
So, governing body allowed to go against the ordinance?
No, the ordinance says, whatever, if you have, in order to make a change, you have to attend the ordinance. We'll provide the exceptions.
The offhand, I don't know if there are specific, the authorization to provide those exceptions. Again, I didn't see anything in this application that referenced the consumption of alcohol.
Just when I said, we were going through like the cooking thing, right, and the pitching of the tents, the irrigation isn't spiked, so just kind of, all of those things already exist already, so, So if that's the case, then in their motion, they don't need to say anything, because all of those things are already.
But they shall operate in accordance with the code.
But if that's the norm, then do they even need to say that?
Yeah, because it's part of the application, right? It should be signed off, right?
Okay, so I digress. Is there a motion to approve communications 1 through 4?
Motion.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the 2022 reorganization meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? We have under new business, a few months ago, we had developed a committee. We haven't had any reports from that committee. I did attend one meeting that I was invited to last minute, a couple months ago. Haven't had any updates since then. We established the committee, we needed the information to be moved forward to us before June so that we could have a public hearing, an introduction and a public hearing if we wanted to make recommendations to the county about Broad Street before they started construction and milling and paving in September. I sent an email out, I did not receive a response, but I do see that someone requested it to be on the agenda under new business, so I'm not sure who wants to provide an update on that, I
I
guess.
can provide a quick update, I'm the one that requested it. I apologize, I've been very busy the past 6 weeks or so. So we had actually had a discussion right at the beginning of the strike, it's funny to think about that. Hold on, I just want to get my notes real quick. About making Broadway one way heading north towards West Front, and then not doing anything with Main, and not doing any bike lanes. I had a conversation with the chief and with Councilwoman McDermott. We've decided that we might want to have one more meeting before we propose something for July 19th, just to loop in the chiefs and the parking committee, because I know that the goal is to alleviate the congestion there, and there might be other ways to do that, so we just want to loop in a larger group. But we will have something prepared for the 19th.
I don't think that that's going to be doable because it would have to have been to the county by the end of July, so we only have one meeting left in
My
July.
understanding is that the county is actually already on board. Their only caveat was how we had to pave the road, which they're now doing. So if they're not paving until September, I don't see why this needs to be done by July.
Because we have to get it to them for their recommendation for their August planning board meeting to be able to turn it one way. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, I'm not sure of what procedure would be for the council, for the county to approve it, but this request or a similar request was submitted to the county a couple of years ago, and the county did reply with their tentative approval subject to certain conditions. The big one was, of course, that the borough would have to provide for the repaving. So there have been some discussions, I believe, with the engineer just to confirm that that is still the county's position. The timeline, as I said, as far as the county approving it, that I don't know.
But our ordinance will need to be introduced and have a hearing to turn it one way, or theirs will?
Well, that's part of the procedural question, and I'm not sure what the answer is.
From my review of the notes, it's our ordinance, not theirs.
Right,
But
so
again, we'll confirm that, that's part of the work that we need to do.
If someone could just let the county know that this is at least in discussion. Maybe they could put a placeholder on their agenda meeting in August in the summer. And let them know we apologize for the delay. Any other new business? Unfinished business, just want to put a reminder out there, that movie tomorrow night is Clifford. Looks like the weather's going to cooperate. And this Saturday, the Recreation Committee has the Magician Saturday morning fun on the stage in the mini park. And reminder that there's a farmer's market every Thursday from 1 to 6. And music from 3 to 6 on the mini park every Sunday. Deus updates, Chief, do you have anything?
I do. Do you want to read the numbers first, or do you want me to just do my update?
We don't have committee reports tonight.
Okay. So we've been focusing on our campaign, which is Obey the Signs or Pay the Fine. We have a total of 137 stops focused on the new 25-mile-per-hour speed limit signs All our stops, I want to remind everyone that they are numerous records kept when we do a motor vehicle stop. It's not only called in over it's also on our body-worn cameras, and there's a record in our data system, which we call Spillman. So there's a lot of records of these stops, and this is where we collect our statistics for these stops. 137 stops were made, and 34 summons were issued.
And when was that from?
That's from June 27th up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Oh.
I think so much.
I did, but I didn't know there was a hand raised. I'm
I'm
so bad. Sorry.
That was my fault, it just popped in my head. So, I apologize, thank you. I was away for a few days and I came back home and I drove to the waterfront and I noticed that a lot of areas of the lawn are dying in large spaces and it seemed kind of odd. And I know my backyard and my front yard are dying, so I don't know if it's just because it's been exceptionally hot or is the irrigation working, is there something, because it's not like our lawn to be that brown so early. So I just wondered if I missed something, or if it was just hot, or sprinklers not working, or fertilization, did something happen somewhere along the way?
Yeah, I'll check. I know that there had been fertilization applied, and the vendor was called back to do a supplement for some areas. So I'll just confirm that that's what the issue is.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to
Sorry.
No.
Do you want to do the motion again? Sorry.
Oh.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, this portion of the meeting is 5 minutes per person. Here's my Mr. Faust.
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's Place. So the plan, well, I guess there's not exactly a plan yet, but the general idea for Broad Street turning into one way is for what reason
We
again?
wanted to just make it a little safer and reduce the congestion. One of the ideas we had floated around was alternate side of the street parking, which is why we wanted to loop the parking committee in.
So what's the, what do you mean by congestion?
I think it's very narrow there.
For full drop?
So it narrows,
Wait, hold on a second. Can one person answer him at a time? Because,
I was
no, my point is that my understanding is that this was only from Maple to,
Yes.
okay. So it's not in the area of the school.
Right, so from the corner where 7-Eleven is down, going towards that direction, towards the water, up to West Front Street, there would be a one-way going that way. And the reason that was recommended was the street actually condenses a bit, so it goes to 30 feet versus 33. And that really impacts the right side of the sidewalk. So around where the diner is,
Yeah.
and that turn and stuff,
Yeah.
that's the area that's mostly congested. And the only way to alleviate the fact that you have two-way parking, you have parking on both sides and the two-way, it was kind of thought, since already we're having we're having the county come in to pave, to not do a middle line, and for us to do the one-way going down that way, not impacting the school and
Yeah,
anything
just
on
between Front and
Yes,
Maple?
yes.
Okay. So, do you know
But
offhand?
let me add on to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, the other factor, the other idea was to do alternate street parking as a one-way, if we do it that way. Or if you keep it as a two-way, knock parking on one side of the street, which predominantly would be on the Broad Street side. I'm sorry, the Broad Street diner side. Because that's where you kind of use real estate sidewalk. Again, people park on the sidewalk there, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
right.
So I'm just giving you all the perspectives. Okay.
Okay, so do you guys know offhand what the current lane width is for troubling?
So I think it was,
At the narrow,
Trevor kind of had it for us, 18?
18 is very narrow.
18 both ways? Or for both
No, I think
directions?
it's 18.
Total?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking it up while you were talking.
No, it's okay. So, I think it's borough policy to make the borough safe for pedestrians, right? Complete streets and everything like that. if the result of making Broad Street one way, or, and if that's gonna include Main Street or not too, is to make the travel lanes wider, it's only going to allow the cars to travel faster.
Right.
Now, I did a lot of loops through town for the parking committee, and I can tell you the best thing going on in downtown Keyport is two sides being parked on and cars going slow trying to navigate around opposing traffic. And I can't think of anything better to slow the cars down and make it safer for pedestrians.
Those are some of the concerns the chief actually had brought up, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to loop people like your committee in.
Yeah.
And some of the other chiefs to
Okay.
really have a better conversation about how to make that safer. Because the chief had some really similar concerns, and also concerns about traffic on Beers, traffic on some of the other streets, and also there was a concern about the trailers, the boat trailers not really being able to navigate. That was my notes.
If you make the turn coming up from the boat ramp, if they make the right turn, that's a tough corner to go into West Front Street.
I just want to be clear, I'm making the point that the current situation is good in my view, because it slows everybody down when there's cars parked. And the best way to slow cars is to design the street to encourage people to drive slow. Okay? So, you know, it's going to be far less expensive than trying to have police out there all the time and everybody getting upset because the police aren't doing this, and that. I mean, I think the way it is I mean, there could be improvements, but to make the travel lanes wider, I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's counter to the police streets, to the borough policy and pedestrians and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Pepperoni?
Are rumble strips or like little speed bumps out of the question on the county road? Is that the issue here?
In the past, speed bumps and rumble strips were not in favor of the county roadways. That's what's been communicated to me in the past. But Jay, can you please have
Is that
Trevor?
due to like the buses, I guess?
I'm not sure. Jay, can you have Trevor follow up?
Yeah, because the plans that we had originally submitted to the county were striping, so I'm not even sure. Yeah, I mean, we could ask, because, you know, it was originally, was looking at the plans. And I can't remember if we talked about rumble strips in 2019. Sorry.
Any other members of the public?
I don't-
Mr. Lane?
Mike Lane, building on what Andrew just talked about, there's only a certain section where the congestion really builds up, and that's when there are delivery trucks making deliveries at McDonald's and the liquor store sector. And what's interesting is that all those stores on the west side of Broad, between the entrance to the borough parking lot and West Front Street, have access to the back of their stores. And the delivery trucks should be making deliveries on the back of the stores, not parked on Broad Street. And the other day, there was a huge 16-wheeler truck parked making furniture delivery to one of the businesses on the west side of Broad, between Capucci's old gas station and West Front Street. And literally, the cars couldn't get through the stoplight coming from Beach Park to head towards Maple. And so to set that up so that there's either no parking just in that short block between the borough parking lot and West Front, or no truck deliveries in that block, would really relieve that congestion problem. And at the same time, would build on what Andrew said, we really don't want a one-way street with the cars roaring down the street.
What you said was actually another suggestion that came up from our conversation with the chief about the trucks double parking and how maybe that's the trick to remediating it. So it's interesting to hear some of the things that we talked about just recently you brought up, so.
And-
That's definitely on our radar too.
And the trucks can make deliveries to the back of the stores on the west side. Yes, the liquor store has a back entrance. It does. When the McDonald's plan was approved,
talking about the liquor store.
Guys, for recording purposes, we have to keep the dialogue.
when McDonald's expansion was approved, they bring their dumpsters, et cetera, out through the back door in that parking lot.
I know, but I'm saying the liquor store don't have no back. I'm just telling you. There's no door, nothing.
A couple issues. The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, that's great, but still would like to hear, under new business, the issues with the four-way stops at First and Atlantic and First and Broad, and the schedule for getting the crosswalks, and the ADA curbing. And we're in their 6th year, we have no schedule. I would love to hear a schedule before tonight's meeting is over. The second issue is farmers market. There was discussion at the last council meeting extensively about the farmers market. And matter of fact, you just heard earlier in tonight's meeting, no consumption of alcohol on borough property. But I went and had consumed alcohol on borough property on a Thursday evening. And what's interesting, I went to the farmer's market, and I would assume a farmer's market is where you buy stuff you can consume, like vegetables and fruit and corn. But that's not what I found. More than half of the presentations by vendors had nothing to do with food and farming. It was like the flea market. There was clothing, there was furniture, there was jewelry, pictures, dishes. More than half the vendors were flea market vendors. And I thought that was an issue. And so what is the farmer's market? And is it going to be farm produce, or is it a flea market? And with alcohol. And again, I'd like to hear some more dialogue on that issue. I'm sorry. The severe storm preparation. We had a committee that Joe Sheridan headed that regarding severe storm preparation. And one of the things that we talked about in that committee was the severe storm is coming, the OEM declares an emergency. We have to clear dumpsters, containers, hot tubs, etc. off out of the flood zone areas. We have to move the cars. We have to anchor the boats. And again, I would like to see, is that severe storm committee, is that going to be reactivated? Is it in existence anymore? Or are we going to pass the ordinance that says the borough has the power to enforce the anchoring and the removal? And I think if you go to Union Beach, you'll find that borough does that.
Mr. Lee, not getting answer that question. There, by state statute, there needs to be an LEPC, which is Local Emergency Planning Committee, which the borough does have. Then the OEM coordinator calls to declare that meeting, which has to be, I believe, Jay, has to happen at least annually, correct? As my understanding, a minimum of once a year. Right. So when they have their next meeting, I do believe that they will be informed, or they've been informed since then anyway, of the ordinance that was passed at the last council meeting for the flood damage prevention ordinance. So it would behoove them to have everything in line for storm announcements.
I was on the severe storm committee. We had multiple meetings. We created multiple documents. And it's, to me, like it just evaporated.
There was a post-Sandy recovery storm committee meeting, but the LEPC still exists.
So, again, I would like to see some communications from members of the council regarding getting an ordinance in place so that we can enforce anchoring, removal, in this coastal high hazard areas, not in the whole town, just in the coastal high hazard areas, where there's a record in the strategic planning report of all the damage that was done that needs to be done away with. I'll just make one other comment. They're doing a really nice job at 333 First Street, corner of First and Walnut. And if you walk down there, Jay, you'll see huge slabs of concrete stacked 5 or 6 feet high. And it's the same kind of concrete that was used at Aero Marine to create some riprap to try to stabilize some of the erosion. And I don't know whether there's any partnering that could be done between that developer and the problem with needing to stabilize the waterfront at Aero Marine. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Mr. Morello?
Just bear with me. Got to head back. Just to follow up on a couple of things that Mr. Pepperoni, Councilman Pepperoni said regarding rumble strips and speed bumps. I worked for the Gordon State Parkway for 25 years as a roadway supervisor. Rumble strips work for alert and awareness. Speed bumps work for speed. Lawrence Avenue has speed bumps. The way they're engineered, they work. But a regular speed bump is very tough, especially on a county road when they're plowing snow. Very, very tough, I'm going to be honest with you. So just keep that in mind. But it does work. It worked on Florence Avenue in Hazlet, I can tell you that. The other thing was, this is no disrespect to Mr. Lane, but all McDonough's and Old Glory deliveries are done in the rear. We can't make them in the front because the doors aren't wide enough. That's why we have the refrigeration in both back of the buildings, and all the deliveries, liquor, food, and linens come in through the back. Even the guys that clean the filters for the ovens and the Enzel system come in through the back. Last meeting, I asked a question regarding the pesticide license for the new Public Works employee that does the landscaping. Was there any follow-up on that?
Yeah, the pesticides, so we've contracted that out.
As of when?
As of sometime in early June.
Okay, so he came on board prior to that.
That's correct.
I seen him, Jay, spraying pesticides on the waterfront. And so a council member was with me. She seen it also. So I'm telling you that he was spraying along the waterfront. And I know he doesn't have a license. Okay.
I know there was also, early on, there was fertilizer that is not pesticides.
Yeah.
This is not my area of expertise, but
No.
I believe early applications are just fertilizer, not pesticides.
Right. Well, when you have a backpack on and you're spraying in the rocks, you're not fertilizing rocks, you're killing weeds. Just all due respect. And I could show you the pictures if you want. The second thing was the borough spent a lot of money initiating the dumpster enclosures in the town. And one thing they did was they made a beautiful one on the waterfront. The dumpsters that are inside that enclosure, who can use them and who can't? Is that, anybody can use them?
That is a great question, and I will defer to Jay. I've asked this question numerous times over the last 4 years, and I have
Because everybody is
requested,
using it.
and I've requested for, a license agreement so that there's an understanding of who's supposed to be cleaning them. Even the ballards that are outside of them now from getting hit by the truck and the fence are now peeling, and just general maintenance of it, so,
To answer that question, we have identified those that are using it. Again, when I came on board, I really didn't have any basis as to what the arrangement was. So we are in the process of putting something together in terms of a proposal so that there would be a clear understanding of who actually can use them and who would maintain them.
Okay, because Jay, the other day, they moved the dumpsters out to remove them. It's really bad. I mean, those things need to be power washed and cleaned in there. And if
Yeah,
people
code
come in-
enforcement has been made aware of that property maintenance and is spearheading that effort to identify and work up some arrangements in terms of who will be responsible for it.
Yeah, I just think like it's easy. Those who use it, they clean it. Bottom line, and you know, I mean, the mayor just said all these great events we're having on the waterfront. The last thing you want to do is walk by that on a hot day. It's disgusting. My last comment, council, is in February, I joined an organization by invitation, Hazlet Hope in Hazlet, to basically be a resident from Keyport. I really didn't want to, I'm going to be honest with you, but I did, because Hazlet Hope gave my family hope an extra year with my son. So they do provide public awareness when it comes to addiction, and that's close to my heart, and everybody that belongs to Hazlet Hope has a story. In March, in a Zoom meeting, I was appointed on a committee with Sophia Lambertson, former councilwoman, to work together to bring awareness to Bay Shore communities. And at that meeting, it was discussed that upcoming in Keyport is going to be a 5K and a wellness event in September. And it's in the planning stages, and you know, we would look to do something maybe as a partnership and maybe set up a tent and bring awareness to the public what Hazlet Hope is all about, and Hope Sheds Light. So we all met, and myself and Sophia, and I went to a KBBC meeting, and I asked how they felt about us joining, and it was briefly discussed, and what was suggested was we write a letter to the mayor and council asking and telling them what we would like to do. And after that, we, Sophia, myself, Laura, and many others sat regarding and said, well, let's write a letter and let's make the council and the mayor aware of what we'd like to do on September 24th. So Mr. Wong's going to give you the council a letter that I did send. I emailed it to the borough clerk. And this is the exact letter that went to the borough clerk. And at the last meeting, it was Michelle received it on June 21st. At the June 28th meeting, I said during a public session to Michelle Clark, did you receive the letter that I sent by email? She said yes, and she said, I'm going to be sending you a form. It needs more information. Okay, to date, I never received the form, and you know, June came and gone, and I still haven't received anything, but I did receive an email saying that Michelle had believed that the mayor had a discussion with Laura O'Hara, who's here tonight, and Sophia Lamberson's here tonight. The discussion was between Laura and the mayor, and it was said that the borough at the present time, mind you, just so you know, KBBC for that event hasn't even had the committee a meeting till next week to do the invitations. Last year, like Bay Shore Hospital was invited, the VNA was invited, all the yoga people were invited, but it was late. So this year they got a good jump on it, who they're going to invite. We jumped out front and said, we want to be part of this because we want to make people aware. So the mayor had a discussion, and it was discussed, Laura's here tonight, that we may not have the resources for this event. And, you know, honestly, I I see other events in the borough that has resources. And don't get me wrong, it's not like our event. We wanted to put up a table, we wanted to put up a tent, and we did mention food. We did.
Excuse me, Mr. Marla, I think we have to wrap this up because we're way over the limit. But I can summarize it for you so that it doesn't go into your time. As Mr. Miller indicated, it was sent to the borough clerk the day of our last council meeting, not June 28th, June 21st.
No, I said I spoke at the public June 28th.
We didn't have
And
a
asked her if she received.
We didn't have a June 28th council meeting, we had a June 21st council meeting, and she asked her if we received it, and she indicated that she received it that day. I know the letter's dated May 27th, we did not receive this in May, we received it on June 21st. And then the next day, when she went to send a form, we weren't sure which form to send, because I wasn't sure which occupant this was going under. There's a recreation form, and so forth. So I reached out to Melissa Melissa, totally strike that from the record. Melissa O'Connell from KBBC, to confirm that the committee that she's the chair of said that they could have a table, and that was requested by you at a KBBC meeting to have a table for Hazlet Hope about information. And there is no objection to that. But the letter indicates here that there's going to be family fun, food, and activities that day. So I thought perhaps maybe communication was mixed up about what event it was. I thought maybe it was something with Municipal Alliance. So a couple of days after, when I had a chance, I reached out to Chief Torres to see if Municipal Alliance was working on any type of event with Hazlet Hope. She was not aware of any. So then on Monday, I had a conversation with, as you said, Laura O'Hara, not Ms. Lamerson, just Laura O'Hara. And I explained that she was absolutely welcome, invited by KBBC to have an information table at the event, and there was no problem with that. It was just that there was no tables being provided physically by the borough, because there was no request for that. So if she could just bring her own tables, or there were tables, picnic tables in the mini park. But the information table was perfectly fine, but there was no request from KBBC or Recreation, who both have events approved that day, for food or family activities. At that point, Ms. O'Hara explained that she already has communication to the Sheriff's Department to bring in the Sheriff Command units, and had a grant to provide food for all the families in the Bay Shore to come to this event. As we know, the 5K is a long-established event, as well as we can't bring the Sheriff's bus in when the road is closed for a 5K. I mean, the 5K's been going on for a long time. The Wetland has served food at an event that KBBC typically provides Keyport cash out to the participants of the 5K to come into the businesses and then go give free food would be an oxymoron on top of it. But the resource table is not denied whatsoever. But I said that we could then maybe talk to Municipal Alliance and see if they have any programming coming up that she could do a barbecue at. But that a wellness walk and a 5K, neither of them had requested to have an area prepped for the sheriff's buses or barbecue. So I did tell her that I would talk to Municipal Alliance, to which point she said she didn't even think Keyport had a Municipal Alliance. Sophie is the chair of the Municipal Alliance, so that was kind of confusing. So I just want to clarify all of that, but thank you for highlighting all of that.
Just to follow up, no disrespect, at the last meeting, council meeting, whether it was the 21st, 28th, 40th, I asked Michelle if she received my email. She said yes. She said a form will follow. To this day, I never got a form.
We received an email back from her explaining that I spoke with Ms.
And it
O'Hara.
went to my spam, but I did get it. But the thing is that, well, no, all due respect, I will. Did the council members receive that letter?
They have not received the letter yet, but
It
they
says
will.
Borough Council.
Excuse me, Mr.
They
Merla.
set the law.
Mr. Merla,
I'm sorry, you're wrong.
No, I'm not.
You're wrong.
for
and you
us
just
to
don't
be able
wanna
to
have a vote.
provide.
So we will have it on private property.
No,
and
you
we
will not.
Yes, we
You
will.
will not threaten me, Mr.
Yes, we
Merla.
will. I'm not
You will
threatening.
not have an
I promise.
unsanctioned event during a borough event.
You will see.
No,
It's
you will
private
see.
property, you have no rules. over.
Absolutely not.
No, all right, we'll see.
Why are we fighting?
It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's nuts. The council didn't even get a chance to discuss.
Of course, exactly, they had, because we had to go, no, I did not make a decision.
You told her you didn't have the resources.
I said we were not providing tables that day. There's a big difference.
We were.
Can I just say one thing? I'm Laura O'Hara, and if that letter was not properly dispensed, that's probably my fault. wherever I sent the email.
No, you
But
didn't
we
do
made,
anything wrong
we
as
did
far as
have a
the letter.
conversation, and there is some communication, very mixed
You
up.
did do
When I was
something wrong,
trying
you
to
included mine and
explain-
Sophie's name.
Well,
Otherwise, it would have been approved by now.
That is not true.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, when I was talking to you, just trying to explain to you what the event was, I was just telling you what was done in another event. I did just come home from the hospital with someone sick, so I kind of was rushing through, and it came back to me that I might have been rude to you, and I apologize. I've never tried to be rude to you, but this was just trying to, again, bring the resources here. If we can have a table, we're happy with the table. We don't have to have food. I mean, we could have salad if it's a wellness walk. But that's not how the conversation went, and I just want to say that. So we're here if you guys would like us. Hope Sheds Light is another very well resource that would also help, but this whole other thing, that's not what we're here for.
And I did also explain to you that I would bring your communication to Municipal Alliance,
I
right?
was asked to come here today to answer any questions, and with all this going on is the only reason why I'm standing here. We did have a conversation, but the way the conversation went is not what's being said here, and so that's why I thought it was important that I said my side.
And that I said
again,
that I
I'm
would
gonna
talk to
apologize
Municipal
to you
Alliance.
if I understand you thought I was rude. I don't try to be rude to anyone. I just try to explain things, and I'm just not good at it, I guess, so I apologize. But we're here, and we would like to continue to do what we do for you guys. That's all.
I mean, I wish I'd known more about this.
You would, when Municipal Alliance meeting, because Chief Torres was brought into the loop, and I didn't have a follow-up with her until when she got back. She was away, so she is on Municipal Alliance, and she was aware of the communication. So I had to vet everything, again, had to stop talking to Melissa from KBBC to find out where there was a barbecue approved with KBBC, since I'm on the board, and there wasn't any discussion of that.
You weren't at the meeting. Check the minutes.
I know, but that doesn't mean I can't follow up with someone, because that's what I'm supposed to do, right?
Never said a barbecue.
Just like,
The letter says food.
That was
It
my,
doesn't even say
that was
barbecue.
All
my,
right, I'm not gonna continue at this point.
Of course
so,
you're not.
The woman's in the back was on the phone call saying that she said barbecue, so.
but I was a miscommunication in my communication to you. I apologize.
can I
We'll
just
take
ask
that
what
up.
you guys would like to?
Exactly, and that's what,
Resource table, just to let people
the
know.
resource table is fine.
I'm asking questions now. Sorry.
The,
It's not my meeting. I'm elected
she-
member of this borough.
I'm sorry, you were saying.
What exactly would you like? Because I'm very supportive of Positive Hope, but I think that they.
we all are.
I am speaking. Please let me finish my statement. It's not hard. What do you need? What do you want? How can we make this work?
it was
This is
just-
the silliest thing to be fighting over.
It was just a resource table, and as I was trying to pitch it to the mayor, I think I overstepped and said, because this was an event that was done in Ocean County with Hope Sheds Light, and it was a community family event. We weren't trying to add to the attendance, and that was the first conversation the mayor said. There wasn't really enough resources, and I get that. There wasn't enough resources, okay, but we weren't going to bring more people, and it was just the people that were already attending. We just wanted to let people know. Again, our biggest problem when we provide this Bay Shore Hope, we named it Hazlet Hope Network. It was a mistake. It's really not just for
It
Hazlet.
started in Hazlet.
It started in Hazlet because that's where the first place was at. But it's always been part of the Bay Shore, and it's only for the Bay Shore. We have to change the name, just because we are for everybody. And I think that might be part of the problem. But, that's all it was.
I do know one of the things. So at some point, Hazard Hope we had an event here with the Hazard Hope. I thought there was an event that we had
We
here.
do, the police committee has them here every Saturday as well, every Wednesday as well.
It's not an event, it's really just
It's just a
designed
yeah.
to open, it's not an event, it's not any of this, it's really designed so that if somebody's struggling with addiction, they have a private place and a safe place to go to talk to an immediate recovery coach to get immediate help.
I just want to make sure you understood, we already had some works with the organization in the past, so just make sure you do that.
Thank you.
We were the second police department, I believe, to jump on board with Hazlet Hope.
And just because it's not published yet, but 3 of your officers are going to be honored this year with us. It's the Chief Phil Mann Award for what they do and how the police department works so well with us. And it's just, I don't think enough people know about the resources. And you know what? It's a problem. You know, we're losing people. People are dying, and we're here just to give resources, not this. So, you know, I appreciate your time. Thanks, John. But
And just, if I can also speak that all these conversations that I had to have with the chief and Melissa multiple times, I did not have all the communication back in time to list this by the time the agenda closed on Tuesday for it to be on this meeting. But it's not like I'm not having the dialogue or it wasn't coming forward to everybody.
I also didn't know that you had hired an alliance person, and I'm very excited about that because we have a new alliance person in Hazlet, the staff in Hazlet, and everything is coming together. It's taken about 6 years to get everybody on the same page, and it's really good that we are.
Right, and that's one of the things I explained in our phone call, that we do have it and we have a new coordinator.
Okay.
Just the two different events, just for you to understand, the 5K is up until 12 noon. Then the wellness is from 1 till 5, 1 to 6 or 1 to 5. So just understand the tables. I just want to clarify, when you ask
This was already approved by KBBC
it
for
was,
them
right?
to have a
The
resource
the wellness
table.
part, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes, from 1 to 5 or whatever, 1 to 6. Okay. It's in the afternoon from 1 to 6. I just want to make sure you do that. It wasn't like the 41.
Yeah.
So.
But on behalf of Hazlet, we really appreciate the camaraderie with Keyport, and I just wanted to, not I, but we just wanted to make sure everybody knows that we're there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public?
Sophia Lamberson, 26 Van Dorn. Good evening. I would just like to say to the council that in my years on council, the majority of my time was spent hyper-focused on recovery, prevention, and addiction. And the relationship that we share with Hazlet's Hope is so important to our community. People are dying. Our children are dying. Our neighbors are dying. It's very important. And this event was, it is what it is. I mean, we have 2 different sides, 3 different sides, but they'll have a table. That's great to share their message. And we do a lot with the police department. I worked very close. I was the police commissioner, and we were dedicated to really bringing a solution, to a recovery solution when handcuffs weren't the answer. And I would hope that each of you would really look inside yourselves and find a place in your heart for recovery and prevention. We have the MAC, and I love it. I mean, it's dear to me, and I am honored to be able to represent the MAC. But that's prevention. There's several spokes to this. There will be a prevention that we have to concentrate on, and then there's recovery, and there's intervention, and all are equally important. And I would just hope that you would find a place, you know, when you adopt your special activities or your special, what's the word I'm looking for? Event, or just your mission, that you just keep that in mind, and that we can continue to share this relationship between our police department, our community, and Hazlet's Hope, because it's working. I have met the people that we have saved. Okay? I've also met the people that we've lost, but we're going to concentrate on saving, and that's what we're here for.
Any other members of the public? Can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. London, we have a closed session.
Yes, we have resolution 22-168, authorizing a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Whereas the Borough of Keyport is subject to certain requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, and whereas NJSA 10:4-12 provides that a closed session not open to the public may be held for certain specified purposes when authorized by resolution, and whereas it is necessary for the borough to discuss in a session not open to the public matters concerning collective bargaining pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B4. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and council assembled in public session on July 5th and determined that a closed session not open to the public shall be held for discussion of these matters. No specific action will be taken.
And Mayor, just if I could request that that be modified to reserve the right to take formal action regarding the collective bargaining discussions.
Okay. Have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.